everybody. Welcome to the Talking Heartland podcast. And this is where we are looking at the Heartland show, and we were talking about season 16, episodes 2 and 3 today. And I am from Grace Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. It's so funny, like that you'd posted the episodes, the premiere episode this week, and the clip that you pulled was us sort of crying out for more Katie.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we were like justice for Katie, and then
yeah,
they listened.
yeah, yeah. They just like gave us the best two Katie episodes I've ever had.
Yeah, it's true. And I was really pleased with the number of downloads and views that we got on that episode, because it had been a little while since we talked to Heartland, and so I was excited that people just love Heartland. It's a hit.
Yeah, yeah. I just don't think this show's ever going away.
No.
People just love it so much, and it's so special. And I started to watch, and this is no like shade whatsoever, but I started to watch Ride on Hallmark
Mhm.
last week. I only watched the first two episodes, but for me, it's a perfectly fine show, but it really just highlights for me how special Heartland is,
Yeah.
because it's so hard to replicate if that's what they're even trying to do.
Mhm.
I just think that the family dynamic and the chemistry between the actors and sort of the balance between the sort of horror stories, the family stories, they've just got it all perfect. Whereas I think Ride is still sort of trying to sort of find its footing a little bit. Um, but yeah, it just really was like, oh, Heartland's so good, which
Yeah.
probably isn't the best thing to be thinking when you're watching another show.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I mean, I I'm enjoying covering the show
hmm
Ride. I've had a fun time with Jenny and Terry, but yeah, I do agree that there's something special about Heartland. And I mean,
Mm.
it's kind of funny, like you didn't know that you were signing up for a lifetime commitment when you agreed to help me
Oh,
with
it's
this.
so crazy. Yeah, yeah. And it looks like it's being renewed. I don't think there's any official like word out yet, but it seems like on the production side of things, it's sort of a lot of people are gearing up to sort of start the pre-production for the next season. So
Yeah, what was
yeah.
it? There was some tweet this week, I can't remember, about season 17, people talking about it. And
Yeah, I think
I
it
don't know.
was someone who is going to be the cinematographer this year, or was the former
Mhm.
cinematographer. And they are pretty much gearing up to start the next season, and it looks like they have scripts as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're
And I
just waiting on
think
the official word from Amber, who does the announcements every year.
yeah, I think Michelle was commenting on that post.
Mhm.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
something like that. But
Mhm.
well, let's dive into episodes 2 and 3. Episode 2 is called Changes, and the summary is: Amy's decision to work with Peyton Westfield's horse upsets Logan. Jack helps Katie find her own path, and Lou has to come through for Rick. So overall, what do you think about this episode?
I really like this episode. I feel like for me, it sort of gave me a lot of things that I've been wanting. Sort of the main thing is developing Katie as a fully fleshed out character since they recast the character. I feel like it's the first time I've really spent
Yeah.
spent time with her, but I feel like this is the first time I've sort of really heard her thoughts and feelings on things, and I feel like the writers are probably aware of how the fans felt, because a lot of the things that she sort of addressed are things that we talked about in the last episode of like, what are they doing with Katie? Like, she's not a horse girl. She's not like, are they gonna expand on that, or are they just going to keep her on the sort of fringes of the storylines as they've
Hmm.
been doing? I did get a little frustrated with Logan in this episode. Just
Yeah.
because, yeah, I just get so frustrated because it's like Amy's done this kind of thing over and over again, and it's like she could be a world famous horse whisperer if she wanted. But she's sort of not chosen that path. So yeah, I got a little frustrated with Logan, his sort of having a go at her for going after money and things like that when she's never been motivated by that. I think that's been one of our main complaints. Maybe she be a little bit more motivated by that.
The great mystery of
Yeah, how
where
does
does
Amy make
Amy
money?
Fleming's money go? Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I really like what they did with Katie. It was very nice to see them connect Katie with Lindy. With
Mhm.
That was really touching and lovely, and it was a
Mm,
nice moment between Katie and Jack.
yeah.
That giving Katie Lindy's journals and talking about how she felt like an outsider, and that they would get along, the two of them, and so that was very, very sweet, I thought.
Mhm. And I don't know what direction they're going with it. I think if she became like a writer or something like that, I feel like that would be really
Mm,
interesting.
I could see that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm. And so Peyton says that the Westfield crew are using cruel techniques on Moondance, and so it
Mhm.
brings it to Amy, and of course Amy can never refuse a horse in need, even if it's from Peyton. And it turns out that so the trainer tells Amy that Moondance is spoiled, and it
Mm.
turns out that's correct. Were you suspect of the trainers? Did you think, oh, they're or were you more suspect of Peyton? What do you think of this whole thing?
I feel like it was a more sort of creative way of them having it, not being, abusive trainers, because I feel like we've just been down that road so many times before with the show.
Yeah.
And having it just be the training. I know from myself, I have a young dog, and you have to be strict. It's really hard to not reward, bad behavior, or just to get like a minute's peace. It's hard. It's really really difficult. And imagine it would be the same, and even more dangerous with a horse,
Hmm.
because they can really 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 injure you. As we sort of see in this episode. So I do think it is very believable that, yeah, the horse is just a bit of a brat, and probably a young horse. And
Hmm.
yeah, I do like um that they didn't go the abusive route, this episode.
It does make you think, like, how did they get those shots of the horse lashing out and stuff like that? Like,
Yeah, it's
uh,
crazy. Yeah.
like, how did they do that without actually like hurting someone?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Maybe this year we'll get to talk to someone who.
Yeah. I did reach out to Amber. Her
Mhm.
reps haven't heard anything, but would love to talk to, obviously. We would love any chance we get to talk to Amber.
Mhm.
But yeah, I always wonder about that, about how they get them looking sick, and then also how they get them looking like, ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. Amazing what they do here. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing that the horses could be, their behavior can be so like groomed and that they can control it so much. I mean, it's
Mhm.
probably simplified a little bit, I would think, for a show like
Mhm.
this, but still, and it's just it's amazing that they can control animals like this.
Mhm. And especially about an episode about control. So how do they how do they have this horse sort of lash out and be sort of badly behaved on
Hmm.
screen without it actually
Yeah.
taking that on board and having issues with the
Hmm.
horse? Yeah, we need to talk to someone.
Yeah, we really do. So they have this orphaned calf. So I guess
Mhm.
sometimes cows
Ugh.
just will reject a
Mm,
calf. But it was pretty hilarious, Katie with this calf. I
yeah.
thought, especially when he's in her room.
Yeah.
That was really funny. But I
Yeah.
feel like we've had other episodes with orphan calves, and it's like incredibly high maintenance. You have to feed them.
Mm,
Isn't it like every 2 hours? I think. I feel like there was an
yeah.
early episode where Amy was like sleeping in this stable in order to
Mhm.
feed the orphan calf every 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Whenever I see those videos online of people like rescuing random animals and it's like baby ones and they're like, "Well, I had to feed it like every 2 hours," and it's like, "Oh my god, it's such a commitment. I could never."
Yeah, and so Jack suggests to Katie, "Oh, well, you could try trick riding." And
Mm,
she says, "Why? So I could be more like Georgie?"
mhm.
It's like, okay,
Which is, I
calm down.
mean, I feel like I, she was a little like, yeah, a little harsh, but also like I would sort of be a little bit the same because
Hmm.
I feel like that is the sort of default in Heartland is like everyone is connected to horses in some way or capacity or sort of
Yeah.
ranch life in some way or capacity, and how do you deal with someone who has no interest in those things, who grew up in it?
Yeah, it would
Um,
be weird if like Katie all of a sudden started like playing soccer or something. Like it was be like, what?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so the fact that her interest pretty much as we see now is school and academics and yeah, it must be sort of strange to to be the only one in your family 'cause we never saw yeah, like Rachel we never saw Amy in school ever. I think we saw her in school once
Yeah, I think there
in
was
the
one
like
episode per
decade of
season.
the show that we've yeah. We hardly saw Georgie in school either, so yeah.
Yeah, they definitely didn't use her high school character as far as Amy for
Mhm.
like typical high school arcs, except
Yeah.
for maybe a few things with Ty. So then we have Rick needing a personal reference interview for the adoption, and Lou agrees, and it he does she does the interview, and it doesn't go great.
I mean, we knew the second he asked it wasn't going to go great. But
Yeah.
I do like the fact that she sort of recognized it and tried to sort of pull it back. Um, and I do like the fact that, you know, that Rick is sort of realizing that um that Lou's his best friend, sort of begrudgingly realizing that.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really sweet moment.
well, it's funny because you think since I do so many interviews, I would be
Mhm.
great at like job interviews and stuff like this, but I'm
Mm.
like not. I don't think I've ever gotten a job from a job interview. I don't know why, but there's something different about that dynamic of like
Yeah.
trying to sell yourself
Mhm.
for a job interview than just even doing an interview or a podcast or something like that. Like it it's a bit unnerving.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
when I was, like, going for my first couple of jobs, and I got one of the first ones that I went for, and I think I convinced myself that I was really good at interviews.
Yeah.
And then every time I had to go for an interview, I was so like, "What happened when I didn't get it?" Um, and then I realized that I was not good at interviews. And I'm pretty much convinced I only got my new job because they were hiring so many people, because it definitely wasn't the interview.
Yeah. It is
It's
it's
stressful.
it is stressful. It really is. Well, we have Logan, and he is upset with Amy. And he says, You don't work here. Helping rich girls and their horses seems to be your thing." Uh, so yeah, that was a lot for Logan.
Yeah, I
He
felt
but
a little bit sort of out of nowhere for his character to sort of be this sort of, like you always say, like these type of teenagers that are so like awful
Yeah,
to watch. You're
yeah.
just like, come on,
Turn
be better.
down the
Yeah, angst.
teenageness. Yeah,
Yeah.
the act. And he says that he's not studying for his finals. He doesn't care. And uh, I think that he's just in this spot of like uncertainty of what is going to happen.
Mhm.
And so that's making him act out this way.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, everybody has moments. I don't mind if you have teenagers that have moments that
Mhm.
they're like, I just watched this Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret? And she has her
Mhm.
sullen moments, of course, but she also has sweet moments. And you just want a well-rounded character. You don't want
Mhm.
I'm going to turn into a serial killer from The Whale, which I hated so much. But yeah, he was pretty bratty, and uh, and I forget who is talking to Jack if about Peyton, and I forgot to write that down. But he says that Peyton's a scared little girl and needs more help than the horse.
I think that was to Amy. Yeah.
To Amy, okay, yeah, and then you have Jack picking up Lindy from school, and he tells the teachers, "There's no secret. I just keep on not dying."
That's such a funny line. That teaches
Yeah,
so much though. She's
yeah,
really intense.
yeah, she really is. And so Lindy's struggling with school, and she throws her graduation outfit in the garbage.
Mm.
So, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I feel like the poor kids just had so much to deal with, like the bullying in the previous episodes, and then sort of moving on to the next stage. Even for a kid that young is so scary. I know myself, going from one school to the next is always such a daunting thing.
Hmm.
Especially when you sort of have your little circle of friends, or the teachers that you really got on with, and it's just that all of that gets wiped away and you have to sort of start again.
Hmm.
So I think even at that age, that's a real thing that could really affect a kid, and especially one that's been dealing with so much. It's especially like losing her dad, and then the bullying in the previous episode. So yeah, and they're so lucky with this little actress. She's so good.
Hmm. They're so cute.
Yeah, those twins are so good.
I can be in favor of kindergarten graduation just because it's like absolutely adorable. So
Hmm.
why not? But but some of the other graduations, it's like, no, you haven't actually
No,
accomplished
yeah,
anything. Like,
no, yeah. Some of them are ridiculous.
like, have you ever heard President Obama talk about eighth grade graduations? It's actually
I
really
haven't.
funny. He's like, he's a post. He's like, let's get on life. uh, yeah, he has some funny and stories. Uh, but uh, but yeah, it's so cute that uh you can't deny it. But I mean, it's good to see them giving like Lindy some actual plots and stuff. And it was actually, I said that Katie feeding the cow in a room. It was Lindy actually feeding the cow in the room.
Yeah,
That was
Katie,
so
yeah,
funny.
finds her. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was really, really funny. Only at Heartland Ranch, they had to find a cow in a room. But you do have Katie looking more into Grandma Lindy. I mean, I don't know if the actress playing Katie has any musical talents, but that could be a way to go as well. That she starts kind of following her grandma in that way. That could be interesting.
I do know that they did release a single this year, the cast.
Oh,
I haven't
really?
listened.
I didn't know
Yeah, I
that.
haven't. Yeah, it's on Spotify. I haven't listened to it because I wanted to wait till the episode, as
Uh-huh.
one of the episodes this season. So yeah, I've been very well behaved and not not caved to sort of listening to it. So I believe there's like a music video as well. Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So Amy tells Peyton to lay off the treats with Moondance. That's the name of the horse.
Mhm.
And then Peyton gets upset and is bratty and tells Amy that she's a phony. She's not like a real miracle girl. Oh, Peyton.
She's such a good mean girl though.
Yeah, she really is. I mean, it's hard though because her mother is so difficult.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even Val wasn't that intense.
Mm-hmm.
Val was more sort of ridiculous and sort of comical, and just sort of the actress sort of hit this sort of note of it just being so
Yeah.
ridiculous that you couldn't take her seriously. Whereas this, yeah, she just seems so
Well,
mean. Paula is so mean.
Val was pretty normal when it came to like the business and with the horses and everything, like for the most part. Where she would be over the top is mostly with Ashley
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then we have let's see, we have Stumpy coming, getting the orphan calf, then Lindy gets upset, which was very sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's a really good lesson for it as well. Growing up on a farm, you're going to have to say goodbye to a lot of animals, and
Yeah.
oh, I just couldn't.
Well, that's
I'd
what
want
they
to
say.
keep
Don't
everything.
name them. Don't
Yeah.
name them. Because it's just going to only lead to trouble. But then Lou goes and finds the counselor. And she's like, he's really great. Don't please approve the application. And then the counselor says, I've already approved it. This is a great speech, though. So it was really fun and cute. And
Hmm.
it is kind of funny how they are trying to hide Michelle Morgan's pregnancy this season.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah,
me laugh.
yeah. Yeah, they're either trying to hide her or she's on FaceTime.
Right. Uh-huh. And that's just when we get the footage that Amy obtains from the trainer of Moondance mistreating the staff. And
Hmm.
like, I would think that they would be very concerned about this because you could get sued.
Hmm.
You can't just have an unsafe work environment.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also find it difficult to understand, like, how powerful are these people?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, yeah, they have a really well-established, well-known ranch, and they seem to be sort of well-known in the community, but yeah, it seems like people are scared of them on a level that is, like you said, they're not. If someone's going to sue them from being injured at work, they're not going to make that go away.
Yeah,
They're going
yeah,
to be
that's
held
true.
responsible.
Yeah, like how powerful are Peyton and her family?
Hmm.
Can they make people like horses like kicking and things like that? I mean,
Hmm.
I guess it depend on what kind of agreement they signed as far as their work agreement, but
Hmm.
still, there's even with contracts, there's limits. Like
Yeah.
somebody can't like die, or something like that. um, and to what kind of what people can be asked to experience in a work environment, especially when there's
Mhm.
an easy or somewhat easy solution.
Mhm.
You know, it's not like they're rock climbers or something like that. But Jack finds Lindy's notebooks, journals, things, gives us Katie. And then Peyton apologizes and says she wants more help for Moon Dance. And
Mhm.
then Logan passes his tests and graduates. And then the nice conversation between Rick and Lou. And she says, no one is qualified to be a parent. You just do your best, which
Mhm.
is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we end with Lindy's graduation, which again, adorable. So, what do you think overall of this? What would you give it? 1 to 10?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I thought it was a really strong episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of gave me a lot of the things that I've been wanting from the show. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Katie, and we have a podcast called
One kiss means forever. Do you love made for TV rom-coms?
Are you obsessed with Hallmark and all the Hallmark inspired copycats that have come out on other platforms like Netflix?
And while being obsessed, do you know that these are not what one might call quality film?
If so, come listen to our podcast. Each episode, we discuss one movie that did not have a theatrical release and always ends in a happily ever after.
And how do we know it will end in a happily ever after?
Because one kiss means forever, of course.
So join us as we deep dive into each movie for about 45 minutes.
Episodes drop every other Thursday, except during the very elongated Hallmark Christmas season when we join the Christmas craze and go weekly for about 2.5 months. Bye!
Bye!
Then we have On the Ropes, and it's Amy and Caleb train one of Sam's rescue horses to be a roping horse. Jack and Tim disagree about Blue's future. Katie and Logan go river rafting and end up on a bigger adventure than they expected. I have to say, for most of this episode, I was like, what is the problem? Like river rafting is not that like big a deal. I mean, it obviously can be dangerous in the rapids and
Mhm.
everything, but like, I don't know. I just felt like they were acting like this was like a crazy thing to do. Like I've been river rafting like multiple times. But overall, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I like this one as well. I felt like again, I was just so shocked that there was like two really good Katie episodes in a row. Um, yeah, and I thought the sort of uh Sam and Caleb stuff was really good, and the sort of beginnings of the matchmaking between Amy and Sam. Because I do really like Sam, and I'm really curious to see how it all sort of plays out. Because I
Are
do
you
think they should keep this actor if they can.
are you surprised that they haven't had Finn at all in these 3 episodes?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if the way that they do their seasons, I know that they film in blocks, so
Mhm.
I don't know if they just have actors at certain times and within certain blocks. Um, but yeah, it's
I thought
strange
he
that.
would come up before episode 3.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know he has in a significant amount of the season, but yeah, I definitely didn't expect them to start any sort of romantic stuff with Amy with Sam and not Finn.
Yeah, I was surprised about that because I'm not sure when the accident happened. But he did film some stuff. I guess just not as
Yeah.
much as I was thinking.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like he filmed like a chunk of stuff in the
Mhm.
beginning. And I believe the accident happened when they were filming the last couple of episodes. So yeah.
Mhm. So we also have Jack riding Blue, and Blue is a gentled wild horse, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And Tim is worried about it. Thinks they should sell Blue, worried that it's going to be bad for Jack. And that's not a dynamic we don't typically see, is sort of Tim worrying about Jack.
Mhm. Yeah. I thought that was really interesting, and I wish that that was kind of more in the episode, because I spent most of the episode just being so annoyed at him. Be like, how rude is that to like steal someone's horse from under them? That's so awful. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think if they'd sort of laid in the fact that he's just really concerned for his well-being, and that he's going to end up getting hurt, and that Tim probably has some trauma from finding Jack, because I believe he found him when he had his heart attack. So the fact that he probably has some trauma from that as well, would have made
Yeah.
it a little bit more would have made me a little bit more on his side in the episode, whereas I spent most of the time just being like, "Ugh, so awful. Like,
Mhm.
how rude is to sell someone's horse?"
Yeah. And it's a dynamic you don't typically see between Tim and Jack, with sort of
Mhm.
Tim being the warrior and Tim being the
Yeah.
and so that was interesting and sweet to see.
Mhm.
And you also see the sort of the dynamic between Blue and Jack is very, very sweet.
Mhm.
And I I think it must be hard for this, because this blue horse is very unique looking. So it must be hard for them to have doubles of this horse. I mean, I guess they would makeup and stuff, but uh it's just such a unique looking horse.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Um and so Caleb
And it
wants to turn the wild horses into rodeo school horses. That the wild horses are at Sam's place. And then Sam has also been donating hay to the
oh,
rodeo school to become kind of more involved. And Caleb wants to turn the wild horses into rodeo school horses. And we see Caleb and Tim getting bucked off. And then there's also a scene where Caleb ropes Sam, which was funny. He lassos Sam.
yeah. Yeah. They have a really good dynamic, and I do like the way that they've brought Sam into this episode, of him sort of saying that he feels like he doesn't really have a purpose, in
Hmm.
the town. He's just sort of like this nomad sort of wannabe. We don't even really know if he's a cowboy. He just sort of has horses and a ranch, a small ranch and land. We don't
Hmm.
really, and I think we sort of get that confirmed for us that he doesn't really do anything. Um, so yeah, it's sort of nice that he's going to be working with Caleb and probably Tim.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's like a fun teasing dynamic that they have together. And
Yeah.
it's nice also that they showed Caleb as like an actual expert, as opposed to like kind of being portrayed as an idiot, a dumb lug, and that's how he's usually portrayed.
Yeah, yeah. I do like idiot Caleb, but it's nice to sort of see grown up Caleb as well.
Yeah, and then he does try to rope this particular wild horse, but then the horse gets spooked. I guess this horse is named Hawk.
Mhm.
Hawk is a tough one to get. And but then Amy takes Hawk with the steers, and with Jack on Blue, she takes him out to the ranch, and that seems to help a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we also have Katie wanting to go with Logan to go rafting and have a picnic. Parker doesn't want to go rafting. I mean, but they're really just building this up as if this is like the most crazy thing for two teens to do. I mean, they got their life jackets on. I mean, I feel like they almost had to work extra hard to put them in a situation where they were like caught under this tree. And most of the time, you just get bucked out. If you get bucked out of the raft, you just get back on. It's really not like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I've just been lucky, but I don't think it can be dangerous, of course, but for the most part, rafting is pretty benign. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Merch Store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies Merch Store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
I've never been rafting, and I mean, I'm not a good swimmer, so I probably would never go rafting. But yeah, I do really like the way that this was filmed. They used a lot of sort of drone shots and things like that.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
it looked really impressive in that sense. And it's probably one of the bigger sort of things that they've done in it. I know that they have sort of these big sort of episodes every once in a while, but it's very
Yeah.
rare you sort of get a random episode where they've probably required a lot of stunts and sort of cutting around things to make it look more dramatic than it was. So yeah, I feel like in that aspect it was done well. And I don't love the fact that they're sort of setting up this sort of little love triangle situation either, but we'll see.
Yeah, between Parker and Logan and Katie.
Yeah, especially because there seems like such an age difference between Parker and Katie and Logan. So
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem that way. Yeah, how much younger do you think Parker is than Katie?
I don't know if it's just the fact that the actors look so different in age, but there's definitely like 3-4 years between them.
Yeah. Yeah, and what did you think of, so they brought in this thing where Katie kind of runs through what they're doing and gets permission from her mom without like really getting permission because she knows that her mom's distracted.
I mean, I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of Lou's own fault, really. She was.
Yeah.
That's such a big pet peeve of mine of talking to someone and they're like typing at the same time. Like,
Mhm.
you're not talking to me.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I feel like we would probably have said yes anyway. I mean, I don't know. I guess because I love being in the water and I love swimming and I love, whitewater rafting is super fun. I mean, my parents never had any worry about that. I mean, I guess maybe it's a little bit different because every time that I've gone, it's been with like an official rafting like company, kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah. And I feel
as
like
opposed to just like Logan. But still.
and I feel like she probably would have said yes in terms of like as long as there is, Emil should be there, like one adult.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
she would have said yes.
Yeah. And so, but Parker doesn't want to go. She's scared. And so then, but they go anyway. And then Parker makes a picnic but then they get bucked out of the raft and they got like kind of stuck under this tree. And that's where it's the problem lies. And like I said, most of the time, if you get kicked out of the raft, you just you have a life vest, so you just float along. It's really not that big a deal. But then
If it was
Parker,
like, and also it's like summer, so it's not like they're dealing with any sort of winter situations where they're freezing to death.
yeah, you just float along in your life vest, and then get back on the raft. It just so happened they had this weird situation with this tree, but then Parker she has this picnic for them, and so she then calls Jack, and then Jack comes and rescues Katie and Logan, and then Amy also comes and helps. So then Jack decides to buy Blue so that it's not a responsibility of the Heartland Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was a really good solution to the problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Logan says that he knows what it is like to have a parent who doesn't spend time with you. to
Mm-hmm.
Katie. No.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they have that. I mean, it's a little bit different because he's like literally an orphan.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever see his dad. But yeah, feels like that's the thing that they're going to make them bond over.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I do sort of see them going the sort of Logan Katie route this season.
Yeah. So Amy is able to rope Hawk, and then Caleb tells Amy to find a horse for Sam.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
they're gonna be spending some time together.
Caleb's doing his matchmaking thing as well, which I thought was
Yeah.
really cute.
It's cute. And so then Sam says, I want to help out with the rodeo school. So he's going to be involved with that. And that is the episode. Jack's upset with Katie for doing this. And then he goes and visits Lindy's grave with Blue. So that was sweet at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a good episode.
Mm-hmm. It was a fun episode, even if I'm like, justice for whitewater rafting, it's fine.
It's not an extreme sport.
No. I mean, I don't know where Logan would have even gotten a raft like that. Those things aren't cheap.
Yeah.
But
maybe he hired all his friends that ditched him.
But it's super fun. I mean, I love being in the water. And pretty much any variation, whatever it might be, I love being in the water. So I think it's really fun to do, but probably good to have like a guide with you or somebody who really knows what they're doing, I guess.
And not, like Katie and watch some YouTube
tutorials. Yeah. Well, yeah, this was a pretty fun episode. I'd give it like an 8.5.
Yeah, go with that.
Okay, good. Well, let us know what you think of these episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments or on Twitter. And Michelle, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store, and that's the best way you can support us. So please take a look at all of that. And thanks so much, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.